Okay, hello everybody. Hey guys, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? Whoa, actually hit my desk there. And welcome to today's stream. It is Saturday, February 27th, 2021, in the end times. So, welcome. And let's jump right into it. So let me just sort of adjust my little camera there. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to show you guys the piece that we did last time for the last like 8 streams. And here is one of the prints that I made of it. So I do these sort of, if you didn't know, coffee stained kind of print looking things. And it turned out pretty good. Haven't had a chance to put it up on the SD shop yet. But if you guys want one, just let me know. Send me a private message or something. And when I get it up there, I'll basically just give this to you for free. I won't even charge you shipping on it. If you live, if the shipping isn't too much. I mean, if you live in like, you know, another continent or some shit, and it costs me like $20 to ship it to you, maybe I might ask you some money. But if it's like $5, no big deal. And this will be just sort of like a reward for my loyal viewers here. So I'll let you know. I'll probably put it up on the shop later today, and you know, that way, if anybody wants one, they can have one. Lewis the Hedgehog, hey man, how you doing? Welcome for joining. Wow, right off the bat, man, you got some comments here about removing carbon from the atmosphere. Let me see. We'll talk about that because this stream, I don't really have a subject. You know what I mean? This stream, I'm just sort of like, this stream is just sort of like random stuff. So I do have some things I do want to talk about, but there's no formal subject for this stream. So yeah, why don't we talk about what you're saying here, Lewis the Hedgehog? In addition to using renewables to combining hydrogen and carbon dioxide to create water and methane, you can continue to compress the methane to create even more dense fuels. Eventually, you can create the same fuels used in the vehicles we have now. It's happening now. Canadian companies using hydropower for this process. They're using it to create kerosene to fuel planes for the airplane company JetBlue. So yes, you can restore renewable energy. Wow. You're an aerospace engineering graduate? Shit, seriously? Damn. Sounds to me like you know what you're talking about. That's cool. I didn't know that you could do that. I mean, I knew that there was a process for removing, carbon and other pollutants from the atmosphere, but I didn't know that you could like repurpose carbon and methane like that, like escaped methane. Because we get a lot, not just from like, you know, normal sources of pollution like manufacturing, but also things like agriculture releases a lot of methane in the atmosphere. The infamous cow burps or whatever. And then you also have methane that's trapped in permafrost, which is being released, and that's like the majority of the methane in the you know emissions are coming from like permafrost in the Arctic or something like that. And that's wow, shit. I had no idea that that was even like a possible thing. See, that's good, man. That gives me some like you know gives me a little bit of I guess optimism for the future. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but me myself, I don't really have a lot of optimism when it comes to our the ability of the human race to rise to the challenge of global climate change. I don't have that optimism. I don't think we're going to do a very good job at it because we haven't been doing a very good job at it. You know what I mean? Like, even with things like the, Kyoto and the Paris Climate Accords and, grassroots efforts around the world in order to do something about, reducing carbon emissions and just pollution in general, because it's not just like, it's carbon emissions. That's the big one, right? that's causing global climate change. That's the largest threat. But there's also other things out there, pollution of the oceans, for example, stuff like that, Um, and I don't really see us as a species like ever getting our shit together and actually like taking the kind of actions that would be needed in order to reverse some of these things. You know what I mean? Like all it takes is the politicians and stuff. We get together and we hammer out all these deals, and it's like, oh, Paris Climate Accords, and the thing is about those is they're all just voluntary actions that we pledge to do this, and if you don't do it, there's no punishments. There's no stick to go along with the carrot. You know what I mean? It's like it'd be one thing if they were saying like, okay, if you don't, if your country doesn't meet this threshold or they don't make these goals by this certain amount of time, you have to pay this much money or you lose these privileges when it comes to trading. Shit like that. Just some kind of, there's nothing like that. There's no kind of negative incentive. And it seems like just when it comes to this sort of thing, it seems like people react better to negative incentives than positive incentives, right? It's like the goal that, if everything goes right, then, we won't die. That's the goal. It's like if everything goes right, then stuff will just stay the way it is now or won't get worse. I don't think people can really like that doesn't resonate with like the general public. They don't really get that idea that like, oh, well, if we make all these sacrifices, shit won't change. They don't seem to understand that. But I think they do understand like, okay, if we don't make these sacrifices, there's going to be massive disasters and hurricanes and all that's actually happening. And I think it's going to take I think it's going to have to get worse, and people are going to have to like understand that there is no alternative to taking the kind of drastic action that we'll need. And what's that trigger going to be exactly? I don't know. Is it going to be coffee going extinct? Maybe. That's a thing that I was just reading about the other day. Like, global climate change means that coffee. There may be no more coffee. I mean, I drink fucking coffee every day. I'm drinking coffee right now. Coffee is a multi-billion-dollar industry. What's going to happen when there's no more fucking coffee? Is that going to make people wake up, realize that global warming, global climate change, I guess, is like real? It's not a Chinese hoax or whatever. Like I don't think it's gonna. I don't see us, at least in the United States. I don't see us taking it seriously. Especially since half of our population thinks it's like a conspiracy theory. That thinks it's like a Chinese, a hoax put on by the Chinese in order to ruin our economy or some shit. So what's it gonna take? And it's like the thing is, we're seeing like we're seeing the effects of it already of global climate change, right? Things like massive wildfires every single year. This deep freeze in Texas right now. That's global climate change right there. It's not all just warming, right? That's why they don't. That's why they don't say global warming anymore, right? They like prefer global because that's what it is. Global climate change. This is the result of the Arctic warming, which pushes warm air down or cold air southwards, and that's why you get these massive storms. And a few years ago, there was another, it was the polar spike, and I don't know if you guys remember that back in a couple years ago. The entire Midwest froze, because of the polar spike, and then a few years before that, it was Snowmageddon. So it's not like this is the first time these types of events have actually like happened. It's happening more and more, pretty much every fucking year. So anyway, Lewis, the reason why the process takes so long naturally is because it takes millions of years for the plate tectonics to create the proper conditions. Also, methane per molecule is 30 times worse than carbon dioxide in terms of causing the greenhouse effect. Yeah, I was reading about that. Methane is a far larger, more effective greenhouse gas. Exactly. One of the things that bothers me is knowing that we have the solution, but we are not using them. I feel like we are living in a civilization too stupid to exist in a poorly written science fiction story. Yeah, it's, well, that's the problem is we don't have the political will. We don't have the political will because we have a populace that is, you know, not capable of making long-term plans like this. And the thing about it is that all it would take is the right people in charge to make it happen. The thing is, people will do whatever they're pretty much told, essentially. If we got a charismatic figure in charge, somebody like Donald Trump, for example, and if his goal was environmentalism instead of self-enrichment, shit would start happening. Okay, seriously, if we got a popular guy, somebody who was like a populist, who was very like charismatic, who knew how to talk to people, who got in charge and basically said, hey, we need to spend this money to do this, this, and this, and this is how you make America great again, it would happen. It would happen. And I think that, if we just use that, that tendency of the conservatives in the country to, to follow blindly whenever they're told, if we use that to our advantage, we could definitely solve these problems. We could solve a lot of problems. And the reason why that's not happening is because these guys have been, they've been brainwashed to a particular agenda. And that's, it's like, speaking of this, it doesn't matter what the actual issues are. What matters is the perception of, that's what it is. It doesn't matter. Like, for example, I really think that if you were to get a popular conservative figure who was anti-abortion, or actually pro-abortion, excuse me, I think that conservative attitudes about abortion would flip, like, maybe not overnight, but in a small amount of time. Seriously. Like, I think, for example, if Donald Trump came out and said he was pro-abortion, people, suddenly that wouldn't be a problem anymore. Everybody would be like, yeah, well, abortion is, it should be your own choice, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even kidding. I really do think that. I really do think that, because these are the people, and why do I bring these people up? Because first off, because that's kind of what my streams are usually about, is criticizing conservative culture. That's usually my streams. But secondly, like, I really do think these people are the ones that are kind of keeping us back, like, and it didn't used to be like that, like, environmentalism, getting back to that, didn't used to be such a polarizing issue. That didn't really happen until the 80s, It used to be kind of a thing that everybody agreed on. We all agreed that we need clean water and we need clean air, and Nixon starting the EPA, stuff like that. That was I mean, and that was another thing, like, because way back in the 60s and 70s and shit, like, things were far more polluted than they are now. There was rivers and shit starting on fire, that kind of thing. Right? And everybody could agree, like, Los Angeles had some of the worst air quality in the entire world back in the 70s. Everybody could agree, like, the evidence was staring at you right in the face. And now it's like, the evidence can be staring at you right in the face and people will blissfully ignore it because, Fox News tells them that it's like, socialism. So, anyway. So let's see. Let me open up my notes here. I did have a few things because there's some shit in the news, obviously. But I did have a few things, so we might kind of jump around a little bit in today's stream, because there doesn't really seem to be a unifying theme amongst any of my notes that I took here. Let me see. Lewis the Hedge. Nixon started EPA because the Democrats controlled Congress and twisted his arm. Well, I don't see, I'd have to read about that. I mean, yeah, maybe they did. I don't really know the actual, like, politics behind it, but, seems to me that if he really didn't want it, I mean, he had that veto power. So I don't know what they were dangling over his head. Maybe there was some kind of deal or some shit. But, you know, that's the thing. Like, would it have happened today? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think a Republican would have started the EPA today. You know, unless it was a you know, a organization that was like, you know, dedicated to removing environmental regulations, then it would get started. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd have to read up on that actually. But I mean, you know, I'll take your word for it. I'm just saying. Um, you know. But okay, so there was a couple of things I wanted to talk about. And thank you. It looks like we actually have 4 viewers right now. Hey, right on. Thank you, whoever's watching out there. So, what's hot in the news? Well, let's start with a little bit of funny stuff. And when I mean funny, I mean stuff that is not so doom and gloom. It's funny. We're gonna start from talking about, you know, the end of the world to Mr. Potato Head. Have you heard about Mr. Potato Head? So what's going on here? Well, apparently Hasbro, who owns Mr. Potato Head, is changing the branding. So they're removing the Mr. from the Mr. Potato Head. And it's just going to be Potato Head. And that supposedly is driving all of the conservatives completely, utterly bananas. And, you know, basically causing lots of, you know, heads to melt down and gnashing of teeth and rending of clothing, that kind of thing. And, you know, does this really matter? No. It doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, it's a toy, right? Who cares? And this is my first reaction when I hear these kinds of things, you know, is, do I really give a shit about this? Right. Does anybody actually, first off, really give a fuck about Mr. Potato Head? No. Nobody really fucking cares. Do you really think that, you know, it's going to matter in the long run? No. Right. And, you know, it's not like they're you know, so they're putting out gender neutral Mr. Potato Head. It's not like they're making, like, a Mr., like, you know, queer Potato Head or anything like that. It's the same toy. It just has the Mr. removed. You can still buy it with a mustache, or you can still buy it with high heels and, you know, lipstick. So it's still, there's still gender in Mr. Potato Head, or I guess just Potato Head now. It's just not on the packaging. But, you know, the thing is that the right wing in this country really kind of has nothing to complain about anymore, right? And so they're tending to latch on to these little stupid-ass culture war issues like this. And whenever you see something like this, it's like it's suddenly the end of the world. So, you know, they made it a deal. Like, it's not a big deal, but they made it a big deal. You know, this was Ben Shapiro did a whole fucking, like, segment on this. This was all over, like, all those sort of idiot conservative pundit assholes like him and Steven Crowder and all that. And there was even a senator who said that we should secede over Mr. Potato Head. Let me, like, find that. Secede. I can spell Mr. Potato Head. Who the hell said that? I should have took notes. Fuck. I can't remember who it was. Somebody tweeted, some politician tweeted that South should secede. Right? After the Mr. Potato Head thing. Here we go. Furious conservative lose their mind. Okay. Wait. Let me find this. Give me 1 second, because this shit's like, it was hilarious. There it is. Mark Dice. It was Mark Dice. It's time for Republican states to secede. Let me just not use this particular thing that I'm looking at because it's filled with, like, you know, ads. Let me just, give me 1 second, guy. For conservative state to... Wow. Here it is. Mark Dice on Twitter. So this is true shit. Okay, let me turn on my monitor here. Whoa, wrong one. This is Mark Dice on Twitter, right? In response to Mr. Potato Head is no longer a Mr. Says it's time for Republican states to secede. Right? So, over a toy, a plastic toy. That's, yeah, now is this guy joking? Maybe he's just joking. Let me turn off this monitor here. I'm sure that he could always just say, like, hey, this was a joke. But, that's what he tweeted. Right? Now, yeah, I don't care. I don't care, but I just think it's funny. Like, first off, it's funny, like I said before, because they don't really have anything of substance to complain about, Republicans, right? They can't really complain about Joe Biden because Joe Biden is essentially what a Republican was 20, 30 years ago, right? So all they can do is make shit up about Joe Biden. So it's sort of like, any of the crap that comes out about Joe Biden that they try to invent sounds silly and ridiculous, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. So they don't have anything there. We have tons and tons of problems in the country right now that, people really need help right now in the country. We have COVID relief, things like that. And, they're not doing anything about that. In fact, their position is to do nothing. So, for example, if you remember the skinny bills that Mitch McConnell gave for COVID relief, right, didn't help people at all. They actually, like, they oppose actually doing anything really to help people that are out there, So they can't talk about that shit because it makes them look bad as well. All they can do is get up and they can complain about how the small businesses and the economy and shit is going bad because of COVID. Well, what's your fucking solution, guys? They don't have a solution, right? So they can't really complain about that shit either. So what they're doing is they're latching on to this stupid, like, in order to try to stay relevant, the conservative pundits and politicians and things, they're latching on to stupid shit like this, these stupid ass culture war fucking things that don't matter in the long run. It doesn't fucking matter. And it's kind of pathetic. It's kind of pathetic. And I think, though, however, it's also kind of nice. Why do I say that? It's nice to be able to talk and debate about stupid bullshit again. That, right? Because it seemed like for the last, the entire Trump presidency, like, there was so much, like, scandal, daily, like, almost daily scandal, where, like, blatant, in-your-face kind of scandal, where the rich and powerful were just so open about screwing us all and getting away with it, right? And, there was just so much of that it was almost kind of traumatizing almost. And now I'm sort of happy to be talking about something so, like, I guess, something's just so not important, not critical. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, a month ago we were talking about, like, the entire country being split apart in a civil war after thousands of deranged MAGA chuds descended on the Capitol and tried to take over the country and steal the election, and now we're talking about Mr. Potato Head. And it's kind of nice. It's like, wow, see, this is what happens when competent people are in charge, right? Suddenly, like, you have to, like, search for shit to complain about. And it's kind of I'm kind of happy to be able to return to that again, even for a little bit. Even as there are, like, massive problems out there which aren't getting solved, and all that shit. Obviously, I'm not saying everything's back to normal, but it is kind of a sign of a bit of a return to normalcy to be able to talk about stupid shit again, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, so that's my first observation. My second one is sort of like, what I'm seeing here with this, it's also, it's kind of like, you know, all those idiots who made a cottage industry out of disparaging the Captain Marvel movie. Do you remember that? Never when the lead up to the Captain Marvel movie, Brie Larson and shit, that, you know, the Comicsgate people and the conservative people just kind of lost their minds because, you know, she's this SJW and she's gonna ruin Marvel and blah blah blah. And then, you know, they couldn't understand that, you know, the year and a half of them talking about this movie and making like 100 million YouTube videos about it, and, you know, the fact that they couldn't shut the fuck up about this fucking movie, like, resulted in tons of free press that just, you know, which made the movie like $1 billion. It's like, yeah, okay, you know, you can't understand that this movie that you just won't shut the hell up about for a year, that's going to create buzz. You know, there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Especially when it comes to a thing like a movie or a toy or a book or something like that. You know, negative publicity is just as effective as positive publicity. And so everybody went and saw Captain Marvel because, you know, of the controversy. Well, I mean, first off, because it was the lead into Endgame. That's the real reason. But the second reason is because everybody was talking about it. And it's like, well, why is everybody talking about this fucking movie? There must be something to it, you know? So, I wouldn't be surprised if sales of Mr. Potato Head kind of go up. Right? I mean, you know, that's one of those staple childhood toys. I had one of those. Actually, well, I think my little sister had one, but, you know, I played with it. Pretty sure everybody has at least had a Mr. Potato Head, or at least knows what a Mr. Potato Head is. But when was the last time you actually fucking thought about it? Never. Now there's going to be people going out there buying Mr. Potato Head for the first time, just for the fact that, you know, it was like in the news. So shit like this backfires, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. It's just funny. It's just funny. It's like, you know, what does a normal functioning adult do? Like, say, for example, taking the Captain Marvel example, right? If you see a movie that looks stupid, you should just not go to the movie. The end. Period. That should be the end of the discussion, you know? Like, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie looked fucking stupid as hell. And I didn't see it. I just didn't bother, you know? And the thing is, everybody's telling me that it's like really good. I have no interest in it. You know, maybe I'll watch it when it hits Netflix or something and I'm bored or whatever, but you know, I'm not gonna seek this movie out because I have no interest. It just doesn't. And here's the thing: I didn't make 50 YouTube videos about how I think this movie sucks, right? How this movie that I haven't seen is going to suck. I didn't even bother to do it because, you know, a normal, ordinary person, when they see something that looks stupid, they can just ignore it. You know, like another example, the Emoji Movie. That looked dumb as hell. I'm not gonna waste my time with it, you know. But if I sat there, if I made a cottage fucking industry about bagging on this movie, I wouldn't be surprised if some people went and saw it just because of the shit I was talking. I don't know. I just don't get people. I don't get people. I don't get how they have to like, how people have to like impose their fucking will on everything. Especially when it comes to things like entertainment. It's like, just don't go to the movie. Just don't buy the toy. Just don't read the comic book. Just don't play the fucking video game. You know? End of story. If you all forget that it exists, if you just don't pay attention to it and you forget it exists, guess what? It'll fucking go away. Right? Because that's what happens when people ignore shit. If you just ignore it, then sales go down and then it will disappear into obscurity. You know? But if you keep fucking talking about it, then that keeps the buzz going. Anyway, I don't know. People are fucking dumb, I guess. Here's another one. Speaking of Ben Shapiro, more culture war bullshit. Ben Shapiro is pissed at Cartoon Network because they put out a bumper talking about anti-racism. I would play it, but, you know, I don't want YouTube to kill my stream, so just search for Ben Shapiro Cartoon Network if you want, and it's basically a little bumper where it has a couple of characters, and like one of them acknowledges that, you know, there's a white character and a black character, and the white character says, I understand my experience is different than yours, to the black character, and the black character says, you know, some general, you know, we should acknowledge people and blah 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 blah, and be anti-racist. And then you know, what's her name from Steven Universe comes out. um, Amethyst from Steven Universe comes out and is also in that. And that's, you know, the only thing I remember. And this has also caused, you know, lots of crazy shit. And basically, Ben Shapiro and here's the thing. Just like I was saying last episode, I guess, last stream, Ben Shapiro has kind of inherited the mantle of conservative asshole firebrand from Rush Limbaugh. He's essentially the new version of Rush Limbaugh, you know. And he's quickly, you know, become kind of the guy that sets the agenda. You know, it'll be on Ben Shapiro's show first, and then it'll go around to, you know, then it'll be on Steven Crowder's show, and then Tim Pool will talk about it, and then, you know, and that's kind of becoming the pattern, right? And because out of all of those guys, like Ben Shapiro kind of has the largest audience at this point. So, you know, it's like, yeah, so now he's complaining about Cartoon Network and about how, like, they're racist for acknowledging that people of color have a different experience when it comes to racism. Where does this come from, right? Well, it seems like for, you know, if you talk to any particular American, I'm not even saying conservative, liberal, progressive, whatever, this is what you'll hear from a typical person when you talk about race. They'll say some shit like, well, I don't even see color. I just see this, or that. I just see competence. I just see ability. I just see what you do, that kind of thing. That's kind of been the standard response from a lot of people, just, you know, in general when it comes to racism in the country, right? And you can see what they're trying to say. What they're trying, you know, when people who say that, what they're trying to say is that, you know, your race doesn't matter to me, right? And that has been, you know, that's a generally a pretty, you know, pretty open-minded thing, I guess you could say, right? You know, it's like, I don't care what your race is, you know, blah blah blah, right? And the thing about that is that that's been kind of co-opted by the right wing in this country. That idea that I don't see your race, I only see this. They'll say that, and then they'll work that into their arguments, you know, and that's why it's like, I don't see your race, and that's why it's, you know, important to acknowledge that 50% of the crime happens from, you know, is committed by black people in the country or some other bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, they'll work that into their arguments. And it's become a way of trying to shut down conversations about race in this country, right? And why? Because when it comes to, like, say, a person of color who tries to communicate their experience with race, they'll say, well, I don't see color as a way of shutting that down. And it's sort of been bent around, it's sort of been used, I guess, in order to shut out minority voices when it comes to discussions of race, right? For example, you know, why is it important to have diversity in you know, a workplace? Why is it important to have diversity? You know, that kind of thing. It's like, well, because you want to have differing opinions, and the way you get differing opinions is through having people of different backgrounds and blah blah blah. And, you know, so you should acknowledge what someone's race is and what insight that gives, but that also means that you need to treat them equally, and then that means you have to acknowledge that people are not treated equally. And that's a step too far for conservatives, because they don't want to ever acknowledge that people are not being treated equally in the country, because then that means they have to adjust their behavior. Right? So so that's the problem with it. So it's like basically saying that, yeah, just pretending to be colorblind is not good enough. You know, you can't just pretend to be colorblind because you're not colorblind. You know, and Ben Shapiro's pushing back and saying that's racist, essentially. You know, which is bullshit. And it's I don't know, it's fucking dumb. You know, but there's another little bit behind this that I want to bring up, right? Which I think I think Ben Shapiro is tapping into this in the language that he's using in his criticism of Cartoon Network, and it's because people who a lot of the alt right elements and the far right, you know, see this as an anti-white attack. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard, you know, people online, if you've ever seen people online posting a meme where it's where they say anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Right? That's essentially what he's tapping into for this. You know, I mean, it's basically not that far away. You know, he's saying, okay, Cartoon Network is saying be anti-racist. That's actually racist, right? It's racist of you to try to tell people to be anti-racist. Is not that far away from anti-racist as a code word for anti-white. It is. That's exactly what it is, and it's you know, kind of shows that. I mean, because Ben Shapiro's not a white supremacist, obviously. In fact, he's Jewish. You know, he is one of the people that the white supremacists would hang, you know, from the gallows when they take over. Yet he kind of understands that this is where his bread is buttered. You know, he knows these people watch his show. You know, don't try to, and that's the other thing. They'll always try to pretend that they don't. That's all. I don't know anything about these people. Yes, you fucking do. You know what your demographics are, right? He knows who his audience is. He makes millions of dollars, right? Specifically from knowing who his audience is and what sells to them, what kind of language they appeals to them, and so on. So he knows exactly who's fucking watching his show, and he knows that these people look to him as kind of like, you know, he's sort of like the good one. You know what I mean? He's basically, you know, like the house Jew to these guys. I know that sounded a little anti-Semitic, but that's what he fucking is. He's appealing to anti-Semites, right? Racists and white supremacists when he's criticizing Cartoon Network for giving an anti-racist message. That's exactly what it is. You know, the guy knows where his fucking money comes from. And so that's just another. It's like a fucking you know, virtue signaling to the far right. So I don't know. Ben Shapiro's an asshole. Fuck Ben Shapiro. Let's not talk about him anymore. Let's see what other random shit. Since this is sort of like a random stream, what else is going on in the news right now? Some good news, kind of, sort of. Some good news and bad news. First, the good news about the evil Rona. They have now celebrated giving out 50 million vaccine doses in 35 days. That's actually kind of nice. Kind of good to get some good news. That doesn't mean that 50 million people have been vaccinated all the way. That just means there's been 50 million shots, right? And, you know, you need two shots to be vaccinated. But that's actually kind of nice. It's kind of nice to get, you know, and it kind of shows. So he, in less than 35 days, you know, less than 2 months, 35 days, 50 million shots out there. And it kind of shows that, you know, this is what we could have been doing all along, you know, because we had the vaccine back in, what, September, October is when it happened. And, you know, there was this really, really shitty vaccine rollout where, you know, fucking President Sphinctermouth McBurgerfuck didn't really get his shit together and left it up to the states, you know, And it kind of shows that if he actually fucking cared, if the prior administration actually put some thought and effort into it, this is what we could have had the whole time. And we could be at, I mean, shit, we could be at 150 million shots at this point and not just 50 million, right? The shit could almost, which basically means like half the people in the country could have been vaccinated at this point, and we could be at fucking herd immunity, and then I could go get fucking sushi again. But no, that didn't happen, right? Because the prior administration didn't fucking care. So this is just a nice example of what happens when you get some competent people in here who actually give a fuck and who actually show up to fucking work and do their jobs and like want to like help people, right? And like are not like sitting there with fucking an entire day watching TV and shit. That's what Donald Trump did all day, executive time, like read up about that. It was just basically like 7 hours of him watching fucking the news, Fox News and Fox and Friends and shit. So, kind of shows that, this is what they could have been doing this entire time. It was completely possible. So when you hear Republicans and conservatives and shit saying there was no way we could vaccinate all these people, bullshit. Bullshit. You could have been, we could have been doing this the whole fucking time, and the reason why we didn't is because these assholes didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't try hard enough. They didn't give a fuck. They were looking for ways to profit off of the vaccine rollout instead of like getting down and getting the fucking work going. So, so this is good. This means that, probably in another 35 days we'll be at 100 million if we keep this pace going, And then hopefully that means by this summer, maybe they won't cancel Comic-Con again and I'll finally get to fucking go to it. Right. November? Okay. It wasn't FDA approved until last November. So that's still, what, 2 months? Even let's just say end of November. That's 1 month, right? So we could be at 100 million shots right now instead of 50 million. I mean, seriously, it's like what I'm trying to say is they could have gotten this shit going a lot earlier. You know what I mean? If they would have actually like put some fucking effort into it. They didn't put any fucking effort into it, and now we're like, now we're finally starting to get some good news. And this is, I don't know, I'm just trying to say it's like, this is what happens when you actually have competent leadership, right? This is like what happens when you actually get people in charge who actually like care, and it shows that the government can work. The government can work when you get the right people involved, I guess. So that's some good news. Now some not so good news out of the Biden administration. They have reopened a Trump-era child detention camp. That should be something we should talk about because, we want to be fair and we don't always want to be licking Biden's butthole. And when he does stuff that is wrong, we need to call him out on it. Now, the story behind this, what's going on with this? Well, essentially it's because, first off, before we go on, they're not taking children away from their parents, right? That's not happening anymore. What's going on is that these are teenagers that have come over the border unaccompanied by an adult. So, people who are not exactly children, they're not like, little 6-year-olds or anything. But they're coming over the border. They don't have any parents with them to begin with, right? And you got to put them somewhere. So the thing is, they had other facilities. And because of the pandemic, they don't want to put too many people in one building, right? So that's why they reopened one of these detention camps as a temporary sort of, temporary area where they can put the kids until they can find a sponsor, right? That sponsor would usually be a family member that lives in the United States. And this is basically what this is how it used to work under the Obama administration. So whenever a unaccompanied minor would come over the border illegally, the government would hold them, but they're not supposed to hold them for more than 3 days. But unfortunately, that doesn't always work out that way. They have to find someone to take them, like a foster home, essentially, right? If they don't have any relatives in the United States, then they have to find some sort of fostering people that will take care of them, you know. And that's what this is. So they're moving them into this place until they can find places to place them. And, you know, since they're kids, they still have to go through the whole same sort of legal process where they have to go before a judge and all that stuff. And all that shit's fucked up. That's all messed up, you know, like, because some of these will be children, like very, very young children that have no idea what's going on. And, you know, they'll have lawyers and shit, and it's like, they have no clue. And that system needs to be reformed, that system, obviously. I'm not defending any of that system. But what I am saying, though, is that this is not... Exactly. This is not ripping families apart, like you're saying, Lewis. You know, this is not people, you know, coming in with their whole family and then their children being removed and then, you know, never being reunited with them. Like, you know, we still had, apparently, at the end of the Trump administration, there were still somewhere around 500 families where the children were removed and they just never found them, you know. And the good news is that about 105 of those have been reunited with their families, right? So that's good news. So, you know, now it's down to like 400, you know, which is another example of that. You know, they could have done that this whole time if they gave a shit. You know, that's another example of why you don't want to have bad leadership. It's like, yeah, you know, a month after Biden takes over, we find 100. You know, we're able to reunite 100 people, 100 children with their families. It's like, because they could have done that the whole time, right? They didn't care. The Trump people didn't care. So just another example there. But still, it's still a tragedy. It's still a, I think this eventually is going to be looked back, like I think historians are going to look back at this particular policy from the Trump era the same way that we look at Japanese internment camps from the 1940s. You know, I think 50 years from now, people are going to be reading in their history books that, you know, the United States broke up families and shit like that, and it's going to be this sort of stain that, you know, part of the national shame. And then it'll be one of those things where it's just the same way we talk about Japanese internment camps. Yeah, that's fucked up. That shouldn't have happened. That was injustice and all of that stuff, and we should make sure that never happens again. I really do think so. Adversary Fandon, thank you for joining. Dynacat, thank you for joining. Dynacat loves me. I don't understand why they think making us fight each other to get us vaccinated is a good plan. Oh, you mean instead of having an orderly rollout where people who are vaccinated according to need, like every other country on the earth, but instead they have, you know, our states quibbling, you know, competing and quibbling over each other and all of that stuff. So where, like, you know, some states it's like doing really good, and other states like Florida, like, you know, basically it's being given to rich people first. Have you heard about that? Like the governor of Florida, I think it's DeSantis, you know, he prioritized these two rich neighborhoods that just so happened to be like where his political donors live. I didn't keep the article, but the shit was funny. And then when people criticized him, he essentially he came out with this, you know, press conference where he just said like, oh, well, if you don't like it, maybe we can like move you down on the list. He like pretty much like threatened to like remove like vaccinating people who criticize him. It's fucked up, man. I don't know how that guy like got elected, you know. Like that guy DeSantis, like he's done so many fucked up things. Like he should be like incredibly easy to like unelect at the next election. Of course he won't be because, you know, it's Florida. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's fucked up. It's fucked up, and this is, you know, this is holdover, right? Because this is what happens when you have bad leadership, you know. The Trump people didn't do any work. That was what it was. They didn't want to do any work. They're lazy, you know. And as soon as we got the vaccine, they just basically said, okay, you know, it's up to the states to do it. There you go. Bam. Go ahead. States, take care of it. Why would you do that? You know, like, I don't understand. Like, it was the same thing with, you know, PPE and when the pandemic first started. They also left it all up to the states to take care of all of that shit too. You know, get your own equipment, you know, get your own you know, your gloves and your masks and your N95 masks and all that. And I think it was because, first off, number one, they wanted to profit from all that. You know, we actually I talked about that in prior streams where, you know, the federal government would do things like confiscate shipments of PPE and then like hand them out to like, you know, other states that were like, you know, like Florida would always get more because they were more important to them in electorally, things like that, you know. And there's actually kind of a scandal where Jared Kushner may have been profiting from the sale of PPE. I'll have to dig that up. It's funny how you hear about stories like this and then you never hear about it ever again. But that was definitely in the news. He was basically like selling it, right? Like war profiteering, you know, pandemic profiteering off of the sales of PPE, you know, that he would confiscate, that he would send the Department of Homeland Security out to confiscate. And so you would get like things like Colorado, the governor of Colorado had to like do this sort of like clandestine kind of like backroom deal in order to get N95 masks, you know, and they had to like smuggle them into the country because they were afraid that like, you know, fucking Homeland Security was gonna like confiscate them, shit like that. Like it was all fucked up, and it was just sort of like that's what happens when you have the states competing with each other, you know. And I really think like that was the first thing they wanted to profit from it, and I think their other motive was that well they were just lazy. I really think that they just didn't want to put in the work involved that it would take in order to coordinate a rollout, you know. And the Biden people do. The Biden people did. They came in 35 days later, you know, they've got like, they were able to vaccinate 50, well, they were able to give the first step of the vaccination for 50 million people in 35 days. And it just shows up, what if those guys were there at the beginning of the pandemic? You know, how many lives do you think would have been saved if we actually would have had somebody in charge in order to organize, you know, organize our pandemic response in order to get the equipment out to the right people and the right states that needed it, instead of having states bidding on it in an open market and then like confiscating it when they actually do get some shit in and giving it to your fucking like political cronies, you know. Like that's what fucking happened. That, if anything, you know, I really think is the biggest crime that came out of the Trump administration. And I really think that was the reason why he lost, his response to the pandemic, you know. I think if he would have actually like, you know, shown a little bit of fucking compassion and competency and gotten the pandemic under control, we'd be in the middle of a second Trump administration right now, you know. But I think that kind of tore the mask off for a lot of people, you know, like while hundreds of thousands of people were dying, he was pulling, you know, pulling shenanigans like this. And then in the news, he was doing shit like telling people to fucking shoot up hydroxychloroquine and, you know, and like fighting, you know, publicly fighting with his own CDC director and pulling us out of the World Health Organization and shit, like right when we fucking, right in the middle of a pandemic, he removes us from the World Health Organization. Unbelievable. Shit like that, you know, and it's like, and that's the thing, is like there were so many scandals like that you forget these things, you know what I mean? Like, you forget that happened. Like, I was like, reading, I'm like, oh yeah, he did remove us from the WHO right when like the shit hit. You know, like that's the dumbest fucking thing you could possibly do. I mean, that's like, I don't know, man. It's idiotic. It's idiotic, and I think that really kind of just nailed it home for people that he's how bad of a leader he actually was, you know. Which is also the reason why I think he's not going to win again. I don't know if you've heard about this, but Trump is pretty much this weekend. CPAC is this weekend. You know, which is the conservative blah, 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 you know. It's like Comic-Con for fucking Republicans, basically, where they go and bullshit themselves and make speeches about how they're like, you know, in support of Jesus and guns and all that in order so they can get money from donors. That's pretty much what CPAC is. And the rumor is Donald Trump is going to announce that he's going to run for office again at CPAC, right? Which, another funny thing, I don't know if you saw this shit, but there's like this fucking golden statue. Let me see. Did I keep did I actually take a picture of this? Let's see. Fake donor, voter suppression. Damn it! Well, it's in the news all over the place. The Trump statue, which is, we gotta get a picture of this. This shit was like so fucking ridiculous. It was like it's the let's see, what's a good picture? Here we go. Here's a good picture that I can. I'll just do Google image search here. That way I don't get ads all over it. I'm sure you've seen this. This is the golden statue of Donald Trump that's at CPAC right now. Oh, it's on sale for $100,000. Oh, I didn't know they were selling it. I thought that they might sell little action figures of it, or desktop bobbleheads, or something like that. But they're actually selling this statue, huh? But look at this! Look at this fucking thing. It's got America's shorts and sandals. And, what is this? A fucking Harry Potter wand or something? Why do they have a magic wand? Is this like? This is like the wand from like Star versus the Forces of Evil. You ever watch that show? What are they trying to say here? Like Donald Trump's a wizard or some shit, Fucking going to Hogwarts or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, they are. Oh shit! Did I just turn off my? Okay, no, I didn't. Good. I was like, oh fuck! Did I just turn off the live stream thing? Yeah. Can we call them a cult now? I think not just a cult of personality. I think they're just a straight up cult. Fucking religious cult and shit at this point. But that's fucking funny as hell. I can't believe that shit. That, like, when I saw that, I was just, oh my god, rolling. And I know it's probably all over Twitter now. There's probably people bagging on it like crazy. We're probably going to be seeing like, an entire segment on the Daily Show of people insulting this ridiculous fucking statue. So anyway, that shit was funny. But the rumor is he's going to run again. He's going to announce at CPAC that he runs again. And, if I was him, I can't really see any negatives for him, for actually trying to run again. Jeannie B! What's up, babe? How you doing? Good to see ya. Yeah, I mean, because, if you think about it, it allows him to get back in the news, It's like he's kind of been silenced. He's not, he doesn't have his Twitter account anymore. People aren't talking about him anymore. He's slowly starting to fade into irrelevance. And I think that just to placate his fucking ego, he's going to announce. Even if he doesn't actually end up running, even if he decides to half-ass it and decides that he doesn't want to be president anymore, I think he might just announce anyway. Because then that gets him out there, gives him an excuse to go have rallies, and gets him in the news, And hopefully he'll be in prison, and he won't be able to actually run for president, Hopefully they'll fucking imprison his ass for tax fraud. But, I don't know, expect that to happen. I don't think he's going to win. I don't think so. I think he would get the nomination, of course. I think the Republicans are most definitely still in the middle of Trump's Trump's fucking takeover is pretty much complete. I think they understand that there's really nobody that could challenge him at this point. He's still very, very popular with the base, something like what, 70%? 70% of Republicans say that they would vote for him again, But see, is that enough to even win an election? I don't think so. I don't think he'll win. I think even if it was, I don't think people who like didn't vote for him this last time are going to turn around and be like, yeah, you know what? It was way better under the Trump years. Let's vote for him. No way. No way. I think he will be just as hated as always. And, you can't win the election with 70% of your electorate. You can't. It's like he couldn't even win with 100% this last time. So if 70% of the people that came out last time voted for him, he's going to lose even harder. So not too worried about that. But, I mean, there is a little bit of concern in the back of my mind going, well, that's what logic and reason tells me, but there's no guarantee that America may not lose its mind again and decide to fucking put President fucking Sphincter Mouth McBurgerfuck back into the fucking White House. I really hope he doesn't. So I guess it behooves us to make sure that we get shit done while we have the chance. Get that $15 minimum wage passed. You know what I mean? Get the COVID relief out there. Get people vaccinated. Fix the post office, shit like that. All the things we care about. Now's our chance. We got to make sure we get them done. So, I don't know. Anyway, so, wow, man, I got a lot of people watching. Well, not really, but still. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. Let's see, what else we want to talk about here? Blah, 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 blah. The fake snow conspiracy. Here we go. This one is very, I don't know. Have you seen this shit? This is The Independent. Let me just put this down in the chat for you guys here. Fake snow. Conspiracy theory claims Texas weather government generated. Right. TikTok users attempt to prove recent snowfall synthetic, part of some sinister state plot. Yeah, it's an interesting read in some of the videos of people doing shit to snow, like trying to light it on fire, that kind of thing. And, very ridiculous. Kind of shows that people will just believe anything. Let me just turn that off. I thought that was funny. It feeds into this narrative that there is no such thing as a coincidence. That is I think, the conspiracy theory, mantra. There is no such thing as coincidences, right? It can't just be a snowstorm. There has to be a reason behind it. There has to be a nefarious force out there doing it on purpose, because nothing just randomly fucking happens. I think that really is the mindset that separates a conspiracy theorist from a normal person, and it really comes from this idea that, they can't handle the fact that they're not important. You know what I mean? That's really one thing that, well, I mean, I don't know. That's not the only driving force behind conspiracy theories, obviously. A lot of it has to do with religion, But it really does kind of come down to, that's a big part of it. It's a way of dealing with modernity, essentially, with the modern life, this modern society that kind of reduces a person to a number. And, you're not really, an individual anymore. You're just data that people buy and sell, right? You're just you're just part of a statistic. You're part of a marketing campaign, and even things like cell phones and internet, internet boards and chat rooms and Reddit sites and microblogging, that kind of, all of that shit, it allows us to all communicate with each other. I mean, we're even taking advantage of this right now, obviously. We're communicating with each other through, electronic means. But it also kind of dehumanizes people, you begin to see people as just blips on the other side of a computer screen. And, and I think that's one reason why everybody can be such an asshole on the internet. You have that anonymity, but also, you tend to not care when, you see people as just, random pixels on a screen. The same way that, in a video game, you're playing a Batman video game and Batman beats up a bad guy in the game. It's it's not a real person. It's just a fucking NPC in a game, And that's sort of what That's what dehumanizes people so much. And I think the conspiracy theory thing, it's a way of dealing with that sort of side effect of technological modernity. You know what I mean? It brings importance back into people's lives the same way that religion does. You know, religion is really, that's pretty much what religion is all about, showing you are important, you're loved, there's a higher power out there looking out for you, you know. And religion and conspiracy theory shit is basically fulfills that same need. It lights up the same parts of your brain, that religion does, and it makes you feel important because you know the super secret info that you got from fucking Alex Jones or whatever, right? That other people don't know. It makes you feel like you're, and when you talk to other people who believe in the same conspiracy theory, it makes you guys feel like you're part of some sort of something greater. It makes you feel like you're part of a community, the same way that people used to get this feeling from their churches. Um, but I don't know. But it really kind of always gets me though how fast conspiracy theories form, and how fast like just things in the news will suddenly get rolled into the conspiracy theory, like the Texas storms, for example. That's now firmly part of the NWO greater, you know, um, the greater NWO kind of QAnon conspiracy theories now. Now they're, and that's the thing, like weather conspiracy theories have always been out there. The idea that somebody in the government is able to control the weather goes back decades. You know, there's a thing called HARP way back in the day, which stands for something resonating blah 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 radar array or some shit like that. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but HARP is real. HARP is an actual radar array in Alaska, and it was used for God, what the fuck was HARP used for again? It was some very benign purpose. It wasn't even like a Cold War thing. Like they weren't trying to use it to find Soviet missiles or whatever. Nothing like that. It had to do with atmospheric research, which I can't remember right now. And this HARP got turned into basically a weather control device by the conspiracy theories. It's this is HAARP. That's what it is. So if you ever want to look up HARP, that's pretty much it. Or it might be HARRP. I can't remember exactly. It's been a few years since I've read about it. And HARP was the thing that Alex Jones would say started hurricanes or whatever. Hurricane Katrina was started by HARP or whatever. And it allows the government to control the weather. And I remember reading, seeing the shit on Alex Jones, where he would say that this is why we're getting big hurricanes and shit, because the government is using HARP to send out hurricanes. They're testing it. They also the earthquake in Japan, the Fukushima earthquake, that destroyed the power plant there, right? Was also testing HARP, right? That kind of thing, right? It's like, like you ever play Command and Conquer, and there's the Red Alert. They have the catastrophic weather machine where you can like hit a button and like a bunch of clouds form and lightning comes down and blows up. Awesome game, by the way. I used to love Command and Conquer. Anyway, so yeah, this is just sort of like, the latest iteration of that. It's fake snow being, and why? But you got to think, like, what possible reason would the government have to send a snowstorm to fuck up Texas? Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing about all of this stuff. It doesn't. This is why it doesn't make any sense, right? Because why would the government send out, create natural disasters? Why would they create natural disasters in their own country? Like, let's say you were, the president of the United States, right? And after you get inaugurated, the head of the CIA comes to you and is like, hey, man, we have this machine that fucking creates storms. We can send a storm to any city on Earth. And the thing is, they would never know it was us because it's a storm. Right? What would you do with that power? You have the power to send a catastrophic weather storm, whether it's a freezing rain, whether it's a hurricane, whether even an earthquake too, because they say HAARP creates earthquakes, and you could destroy any city on Earth. Why would your first choice be fucking Texas? Like, you know, Houston in Texas, right? Or New Orleans, right? Or fucking Japan. Why would you send an earthquake to fuck up Japan? Like, wouldn't you send it first off, if you had this ability, wouldn't you like destroy Moscow? Right? Or wouldn't you like destroy like fucking, you know, Afghanistan, or like where like the actual enemies of the United States are, you know? Like, I guess during the time this was, during the Iraq war, wouldn't you send like a hailstorm to fucking like blow up Baghdad or something? You know, why would you do it, you know, and if you were going to test it, why would you test it on your own country? That it doesn't make any sense either. It's like, oh, we need to test this catastrophic weather machine. Well, fuck New Orleans. I hate New Orleans. Let's blow that place up. You know, send a fucking hurricane there. Why? Why would you send, you know, to a place in your own country where you're going to end up spending millions and billions of dollars to rebuild? Why? What? I don't know. Maybe George Bush just really didn't like New Orleans. You know, maybe he went there one day and he got diarrhea because he ate some bad fucking gumbo or some shit. And he said, fuck New Orleans. Blow it up. Send a hurricane. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid, you know. And it seems like, because if this kind of thing were real, this is what we'd be seeing. We'd see, you know, North Korea would get hit with a giant hurricane like every fucking month. Right? Like, yeah, the Allied Weather Control Device. Exactly, dude. I see that you are a man after my own taste there. You know, I used to play that game constantly. Fucking, I don't know if you guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's Red Alert from Command and Conquer, which is it's basically an alternate history kind of thing where the Nazis never form because Albert Einstein goes back in time and assassinates Adolf Hitler. So World War II is then against the Soviet Union instead of the Nazis. It's actually really good, and the Allies have like this catastrophic weather device, you know, which is awesome. You know, Soviets get a nuclear bomb, so there you go. There it balances out. But awesome game if you ever get a chance to play it. You know, unfortunately nobody plays it online anymore. Anyway, so yeah, this shit is just stupid. But that's the thing. It's like nobody actually, you know, the people that believe these things don't actually think about these things. You know, you don't even need to like dig up proof and dig up proof that it's not real. All you have to really do is just think about, if it were real, what would happen, you know? And they don't think about it because conspiracy theories, you know, they don't care about truth, you know, the conspiracy theorists, right? The actual truth has nothing to do with it. What's actually going on, any action, you know, because there are such things as state secrets, right? There are top secret things that we don't know about and we will never know about because they're top secret, you know, they will never be released, you know. There are files and shit on things like the Kennedy assassination which have not been revealed to us, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like, it's not like there isn't such a thing as like, you know, top secret stuff and maybe even damaging information that may like upset the social order, which is out there, you know. But it's like they're not actually interested in any of that shit. They're interested in these things that fit their narrative, which a lot of it is pretty much indistinguishable from evangelical Christianity nowadays. You know, it's QAnon. QAnon is all evangelical Christianity. That's pretty much it. I would even say it's almost like an evolution of that particular brand of Christianity, you know. Southern evangelical kind of, you know, prosperity gospel Christianity. That's pretty much what QAnon is now. Anyway, shit. Okay. Louis the Hedgehog. It's like how people say that furries ruined Sonic. Really? They want to drag Sonic into a world of boring ass humans. That's what furries wanted. I think that that movie probably would have been better. I don't know. Like, I've heard people say that the movie was really good. And I didn't want to see it, and it was because when I first saw that preview, it looked dumb. The preview looked dumb. I know they changed the design of Sonic to make it look more like, the game, and people really liked that. And I'm hearing good things about the movie, so maybe I might go see it. I don't know. It didn't appeal to me. I mean, Jim Carrey kind of basically doing an Ace Ventura with Eggman or whatever, and I don't know. But here's the thing: I'm not adverse to never watching it. Maybe I'll watch it one of these days. It's just it didn't really look. When I saw the previews, it's like Sonic the Hedgehog singing "Gangster's Paradise." I was like, what? Like, I don't know. I mean, I would have made it. First off, if I was making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, it would have been like a CG sort of Pixar kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like, just make the whole thing animated. Like The Incredibles or Toy Story kind of thing. And I would set it within the game universe. You know what I mean? Because it's like that shit's more interesting to me. Like, I don't care. Like, real mundane life, I can see that everywhere. I can see normal life just out the window. It's like, no, man, give me the fucking Green Hill Zone. Like, let me see like the Sonic the Hedgehog world, but done in like, Pixar quality rendered, theatrical 3D. That would be awesome, right? So, same way, like if they ever wanted to make another Super Mario Brothers movie, they should not make it a live action movie. They should make it an animated movie. Because then you can have things like Chain Chomps and Mushroom People and like, fucking all of that shit. You can have all that stuff and it doesn't look stupid. You know what I mean? Like, you can basically make it look like the game. Because why not? Because the game already has a very rich visual library. The same, the Sonic the Hedgehog games. Like, I don't know how familiar you guys are with them. I know Lewis here is very familiar with them. But, the Sonic the Hedgehog games have a very rich visual library. Like, just look at the backgrounds of some of those games. They're kind of fucking awesome looking. Waterfalls and shit everywhere. And that kind of thing, They've got like, it's like lush green grass things and plants and waterfalls and all this cool stuff. It's like, dude, give me that in the movie, not like Sonic in a fucking ice cream truck driving down the street. Like, I don't know. Anyway, let me see. Let's move on. What else we got to talk about here? I have some more stuff. Let's see. We talked about fake snow in Texas. Here's another one. So we were talking a little bit about how the Republicans and conservatives have nothing to complain about when it comes to Joe Biden. Here's one. Tucker Carlson did a segment on how Joe Biden's marriage is a sham. I don't know if you've seen this thing. This is kind of funny. Tucker Carlson's... fuck off. Fucking ads. Go away. Damn it. That's not going to go away, is it? Okay. Tucker Carlson says Joe and Jill Biden's 44-year marriage is just a slick PR campaign that is real as climate change. Which is funny, because there's no indication at all. See, this is what I'm talking about. How they need to just make shit up about Joe Biden, right? Because it's only been a month, right? No thanks, fuck you. Okay. It's only been a month, and there hasn't been any real scandals to date. Unlike Donald Trump, where Donald Trump a month in had like 17 scandals. Joe Biden doesn't have any scandals. So here, I'm not going to read this here because it's bullshit, but I'll put it in the chat for you guys if you want to read it later. Let's turn this fucking ridiculous horse shit off here. Get out of here. They don't really have anything to complain about with Biden. So they're kind of digging a little deep, saying that his marriage is a sham. Like, is there any indication that, Joe and Jill Biden are not, happily married? I don't think so. there was indication that Donald Trump and Melania were not happily married. You know, one thing comes to mind where there were like there's this video of Trump and Melania walking down like off of an airplane, and like he tries to like hold her hand and she like slaps his hand away. If you ever saw that shit, that was some funny shit. That came out like it was right during the Stormy Daniels thing. You know, there was plenty of indication of that. I mean, do they have any proof of Joe Biden cheating on his wife? I know there's all kinds of weird shit of him smelling, you know, women's hair and that kind of thing, you know, but has he actually, like, cheated on his wife? Has he, like, you know, paid a porn star to, you know, bang him while his wife was, like, pregnant and shit? Like, I don't think so. I don't think there is. And that's just really funny how they have to just, like, dig this shit up in order, because, you know, because it really shows that they have nothing. You know, here's another one about how they did a fucking I'm not even gonna open this, I'll just copy the link. But here's another one. Newsmax did a story on Joe Biden's dog. There's the link to that down the, because it's a YouTube thing and I don't want to like open a YouTube video. They did a story on his dog, for crying out loud, about how his dog is like, you know, ill-kempt and needs to be groomed and is probably, you know, and they're saying his dog is probably abused or whatever. No proof of any of that. Do they have video of Joe Biden beating his dog, hitting it with a newspaper or kicking it or some shit like that? No. They don't have anything like that at all. They just made it up. They made it up because they don't have anything. They got nothing. You know, there's nothing, there's no scandals. So they have to invent shit. Here's another one. Ben Shapiro. Here's a tweet by Ben Shapiro where he was talking about Jill Stein about how she's not a real doctor. So here we go. This is some funny shit. I just love that in a time when medical doctors should be revered as never before, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. We're now standing strong for the proposition that people who get doctorates in education should also be called doctor. Doctor, this man has been shot. Can you help? Of course, let me grab my dissertation on community college access and explain to you why inequality has contributed to this man's condition. So basically, he's saying that Joe Biden is not a real doctor because he doesn't really have any actual scandals to talk about Joe Biden. He doesn't have shit. He has to make shit up, you know. And first off, I like how, see, Joe Biden is a doctor, you know, she has a doctorate, right? Compared to the previous first lady, you know, who was a fucking borderline porn star. I don't think there actually is any video of Melania, you know, getting down there, but there definitely are cheesecake and you know, there definitely are nudie pics of her out there, right? I mean, it was no secret, you know, Trump married her for the pussy, and she married Trump for the money, and they had a very largely fake, you know, loveless marriage, it seemed. And it's just really funny how, like, you know, did any of the, you know, any of the people on the left, the Democrats, any of them, did they ever attack Melania for any of that? You know? Can anybody remember any instance at all where anyone on the left ever said anything bad about Melania for posing nude? No. No. It never came up, right? I did hear some criticism about her for her being a chain immigrant, but that was just in context of shit that her husband was trying to pass. See, anything that it seemed like whenever they would criticize Melania, it was always in context of policies that Donald Trump was trying to get pushed through. You know, he wanted to stop chain immigration, but his wife immigrated to the country due to chain, you know, like his wife and his wife's parents immigrated to the country due to chain immigration, for example. You know, other things that they would criticize Melania for would be, you know, things that are actually worthy of criticism. Like, for example, when she fucking plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech, right? Like, you know, in one of the speeches she gave, she basically just fucking copied it. Or another one where she, what did she do? The other one where she like wore that fucking she went to a child internment camp and wore that shirt, you know, I don't care, do you kind of thing. Like, you remember that? It's like, yeah, that kind of thing matters, you know. It's like kind of shows like how aware she was. If she would have like put some fuck, it shows that she didn't give a shit. It showed that she wasn't even putting in any thought to any of the optics whatsoever. And did anything happen after she went to visit the fucking children that her husband separated from their families? No, nothing changed. She didn't do shit. So it's sort of like people criticized her for stuff that actually was worthy of criticism, you know. What did Melania Trump actually do while she was in, you know, I guess she's not in office because, you know, she wasn't, you know, technically elected to anything. But while she was the first lady, you know, what did she do? Right? Because the first lady is, you know, it's tradition for the first lady to undertake a project, some kind of charity kind of thing. You know, Barbara Bush was education. That was her thing, you know. Get out there and help kids get educated. And she would turn around and like, you know, raise money and shit for education, that kind of thing, right? Um, you know, fucking Michelle Obama was all about physical ed, you know. Kids are getting too fat. We got to get them out there, get them moving. You know, that was her thing, you know, get moving, right? Physical education, you know, get up off your, turn off the phone, turn off the cell phone, turn off the fucking PlayStation 4 or whatever, get out there, play some soccer, right? And that's a good cause, you know. You know, kids are fat. Shit, I was a fat kid. Go for it, you know. Fucking happy to like, shit, I'm still overweight. Fuck, you know, right? You know, what did Melania do? Be best, you know. She did a cyberbullying campaign. But did she actually do anything? You know, did she go anywhere? Did she, like, give speeches? You know, did she start a foundation? Did she raise money? No, she didn't do any of that shit. She basically did the bare minimum it took, you know. Which was doubly ironic because her fucking husband, the president of the United States, was the biggest cyberbully on the goddamn planet for 4 years, you know. It was almost like they said to her, hey, you got to do something. And she put in the absolute minimum amount of work required. I mean, do you really, I mean, look at Melania. Do you think Melania is somebody who enjoys working? No. No, she isn't, right? She's a fucking rich gold digger is what she is. She married a rich old guy that she fucking hates for his money. And, you know, is hanging out, even though like any normal rational person would have divorced his ass years ago. She's hanging on because she wants his money after he dies. That's why she's still there. You know, she didn't even move into the fucking White House for 5 months until after he moved. She didn't even move in. She didn't even live with him for 5 months. You know, and it's like give me a fucking break. So now, you know, I mean, this is the thing, right? Because does any of this matter? No. In the scheme of things, no. But they're attacking, you know, the current first lady. Did they, you know, the right wing, did they like lay off of Michelle Obama? No, they constantly attack Michelle Obama. Constantly. You know, it's a meme that Michelle Obama looks like a man and all that now. Like if you go on like 4chan and shit, you know, and like even like, you know, that guy Ben Garrison, that fucking like political cartoonist asshole who's constantly like sucking Trump's dick or whatever. He would constantly make these. I'm not going to pull any of them up because they're vile, but he would constantly make these political cartoons where he would like insinuate that Michelle Obama was very mannish, you know, and that was like the meme going around in the alt-right that she was like a trans woman, you know, and all this shit, and you know, it's disgusting. We can get it more into that, but it's very like extremely racist, extremely like, you know, homophobic and really fucked up, you know. And this is what they give, and that's the thing. Like, whenever you hear the conservatives and shit complaining about how like the left wing is hateful, and you know, you always hear this, you know, the left wing is hateful, and all they do is they call you names. They don't know how to debate, blah 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 blah. Fuck all that. Okay, because, you know, we can pull up 100 fucking examples. Like, this is what they do, you know, this is what they give to us. This is what they do to us, right? when somebody like Michelle Obama or Jill Biden, when they're like in this position and they're actually using their position to try to do some good for people, you know, from the fucking right wing, we get like vile memes, homophobia, right? They're the ones that constantly call us names, and we're expected to just like bend over and take it and never say anything bad back to them. And so, fuck all of that shit. So anyway, that's Ben Shapiro. Getting back to Ben Shapiro, being an asshole, right? And trying to invent fake fucking controversy where none exists. Because they don't have shit. They don't have anything. They don't have any policies, They're not interested in helping people. All they're interested in is dividing people. And I'm thinking of making an entire stream all about Ben Shapiro because he's kind of a unique asshole. He's like Ben Shapiro actually grew up in my hometown. I don't know if you guys know that. He's from the Valley, Jeannie B. Ben Shapiro is from the Valley, which is kind of crazy. Right? Me and Jeannie B go way back. And we, and yeah, he lived in, fucking Reseda. Right? So it's like, I know exactly, he's a few years younger than me. Right. But I know exactly the kind of environment that he grew up in, because that's the environment that I grew up in, And I know exactly where he's coming from. I know exactly all the same pressures that he got. And Ben Shapiro is a highly, highly religious guy who said, his main thing is that he's very principled and he believes in conservative, like traditional conservative Judeo-Christian values, and that's why you'll see him often calling out against sexual immorality, stuff like that. He had this very famous thing where he did a whole show about the Wet Ass Pussy song. I'm sure you guys have all seen that. In fact, somebody actually took that show and recut it and put his speech over the WAP song. And it was this meme where, because he said, oh, my wife said that's actually, you're not supposed to get wet or whatever, and it's fucking hilarious. Look it up. Some information for you guys. Ben Shapiro did not lose his virginity until the age of 27. So we have the guy who is going out there and disparaging other people for their sexual immorality, claiming that we're all immoral, calling people sluts, right? And whores, that kind of thing. And all of that shit, talking about alpha males and how, women are destroying their lives by having premarital sex, shit like that. And it's from a guy who did not have a healthy sexual relationship himself until he was almost 30. And I think, he claims it was for religious reasons, right? Which is why he did not decide to have premarital sex. I can tell you right off the bat that's complete and total bullshit of the highest order. And I know this because I am from the same place that Ben Shapiro's from. I know what the culture is like this out here. And let me put it this way. Every single person that I ever met that lives here that had the same ideas about sex that Ben Shapiro has, every single one of them grew up in a very repressive, religious household. And the minute they got old enough and they got a little bit of freedom, all that shit flew right out the window. Right? All of it flies right out the window, And that's why, people who grow up in very, hardcore Christian families like that, where it's no sex before marriage and you're be in the world but not of the world is what they call that, right? They go off to college and they turn into party animals. The girls go off to college and they end up getting pregnant before they get married, You know, the guys end up becoming fucking like, you know, stoners and shit like that. It's because when you suppress these things, you know, it has nothing to do with the culture. You know, it's not the culture that we live in, which causes people to party and have sex and shit like that. It's because, you know, that's the natural reaction of when you're a young person, is to party. And, you know, young people are essentially hedonists. I mean, that's just what it is. You know, party, have fun, because this is the time in your life that you can do it and you don't have any responsibility, you know. And you understand, by the time you hit your 30s, you start realizing, shit, I better get my life together. I better get a job. I can't afford to, like, hang out at nightclubs all night and shit like that. But when you're in your 20s, when you're 21, 22, whatever, you understand this is the time for you to do this. This is like, I need to have fun. This is it. If I don't have fun now, I never will. And Ben Shapiro is one of those people that kind of skipped that part of his life. He never got to experience that. He never got to, you know, and I'm not going to say that his parents forced him, you know. Maybe this was his own volition. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. You know. Anyway. Maybe this was like his own volition. Maybe he actually does have these sincere religious attitudes. Right. So now, but what's the result of that? The result of that, now he doesn't know. He has no idea about, you know, how normal, ordinary adults can have... Oh my god, fuck off! Dude. Oh my god. Please stop fucking honking. Anyway. He has no idea about, you know, how normal, or like he doesn't understand how normal functioning adults can have, you know, healthy sexual relationships with each other without being married. He doesn't understand that. You know, he never learned that. He never learned that was possible. He never experienced that for himself. And so now he just thinks that it's all like, you know, satanic and shit. Dude, just I'm very tempted to go over to my window and just scream at that guy right now. You know, if I wasn't streaming, that wouldn't be happening. You gotta remember that. Like, when I don't stream, there's never loud cars driving by. There's never people outside honking and shit like that. I don't know. Fucking annoying. Anyway, that fucked me up. What was I talking about? I don't know. Ben Shapiro. What time we at? 1:40. Ah, man. These random streams are kind of nice. You know, it's like, I like to have a subject to kind of tie everything into, you know, but maybe we ought to do this more often. Maybe we just ought to have, like, one where we just shoot the shit. You know what I mean? Let's see. What else we got here? We talked about, let's see, we talked about the fake snow. We talked about Jill Biden. We talked about Newsmax and Biden's dog. Here's one last thing. Okay, we're hitting, getting close to 2 hours here. I guess this kind of ties back into what we were talking about with Trump at CPAC. And conspiracy theories in general. So, the latest from QAnon, you know, QAnon has not gone away, right? After their prediction that Donald Trump would win the election and all that shit failed to come true. In true, you know, true religious manner, they've simply created another prediction. And this prediction is that on March 6th is when the storm is supposed to happen. And Donald Trump is going to take over the government, apparently. Where does this come from? Well, apparently, this is the conspiracy theory, okay? The conspiracy theory is that back in the day, the president inauguration used to be on March 6th. And it was, you know. And it was because it would often take months for people to cross the country, you know. So it would take a long time for people to travel, that kind of thing, and set things up. So they would, they didn't actually have the president take over on January 1st of whatever year. There would be a larger transition period. And so that used to be the old inauguration, and then it was something like it that changed in the early 20th century, right? And the other idea is because apparently it was Woodrow Wilson passed some kind of law that sold out the American people or whatever and made the United States a corporation, and that's when this also tied. We kind of talked about this in a prior stream, and this kind of ties back into the sovereign citizen movement a little bit too. But anyway, so the long and short of it is that March 6th is supposed to be the real inauguration date, and on March 6th, the military is going to initiate a coup and depose Biden and swear in Donald Trump, and this was part of the plan all along. This was the storm, right? And this is why right now there's lots of threats coming from militia people, people like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters and the Proud Boys and shit like that, saying that they want to disrupt Congress right around the beginning of next month. And it kind of ties back into this, this prediction from QAnon, right? Now, is anything going to really happen here? I don't think so. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think that there's going to be a massive. I don't think there will be another. There may be protests, right? But I think that like another sort of January 6th type event, I don't think that's happening. I think the ship sailed on that. I think that the assorted militia groups and right-wing groups that were involved in that understand that if they try some shit like that again, the government's ready for them, basically. They still have something like 10,000 troops hanging out in Washington D.C. at this point, the National Guard. They never went away. They're all sort of just still been there. So there's a pretty large military presence in the streets currently in Washington D.C. And it's precisely because of shit like this, because they know that tensions are high and there's lots of chatter online between these ridiculous QAnon groups that they want to they want to blow up Congress apparently, right? So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. I think it's more likely that we'll get a mass, like a lone nut kind of mass shooter. I think that's more likely to happen, that there might be one guy who's just drank too much of the Kool-Aid and might try to show up and fire into a crowd or some shit. I think that's likely to happen. I don't think that there's going to be thousands of protesters who are going to surround the Capitol and try to break in again and all that. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just pretty funny how, pretty funny how this stuff, like I was saying, it's like, it's just like a religion. You have a prediction. The prediction doesn't come true, and instead of people abandoning the religion, they just move on to a brand new one. Jehovah's Witnesses, shit like this would happen all the time from Jehovah's Witnesses. They predict the end of the world is coming, and it's going to come in 1914. Then 1914 comes and goes, and it's like, oh, the world didn't end. Oh, because the new date is actually going to be 1975. Then 1975 comes and goes, and it's like, oh, well, the new date is actually going to be 2089 or whatever. And it's like, that shit happens, over and over and over again, And it's maybe 200 years from now, there might actually be an official church of QAnon, and somebody might actually go into 4chan and print out all of the QAnon, the Q drops, and form them into a fucking Bible, right? And then 1,000 years from now, it may be completely like indistinguishable from Christianity. There might be, you know, a new book of the Bible, the Book of Q. Right? I'm pretty sure that's I don't know. That's how I see this shit is going, man. You know, it's we're seeing a religion form right before our eyes. Let's see. Let's read some comments here because we're getting close to 2 hours. Let's see. Blah blah blah. Adversary Fandom 2. Stormin could get a better fuck than Trump and still get paid. Yeah, well, you know, she probably has. But hey, for this one, she got paid, what, $128,000? That's not so bad for one romp in the hay. I mean, I don't know. Would you have sex for Donald Trump for $128,000? Can I put a bag over his head? That's a lot of money. Anyway. Lewis the Hedgehog. Except I didn't go to college for the drugs and sex and booze. I went to college to learn things. I know that sounds arrogant, but I didn't mean it to. No, it's true. You know, I mean, yeah, you know, I went to college too to learn stuff, obviously. But, you know, what I am saying, though, is that the time for you to have fun is your 20s, right? That's the time to have it. So if you're going to go and, you know, party. I mean, and party doesn't always mean drugs and, you know, sex or whatever, right? It could mean just having fun, you know, like whatever it is you do to have fun and have relationships with people of the, you know, with other people and in a sexual way or whatever, you know, that's just, you know, this is when you do it. You do it when you're 20, when you're young and you have energy and you want to go out and meet people, blah, 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 you know. It's like the older you get, the less interested in you are. I mean, I don't know about you guys, you know, but it's like the older I get, the less interested I am in just meeting people in general, you know? Like, I just don't care anymore, you know? Like, and like, I don't have a lot of friends, you know? I have like a few, you know? But it's less important. Even just hanging out with the few friends I have is less important now. It's more of like, there are people, it's like, okay, there are people I can talk to if I want to, you know, socialize and shit like that. That's great. But it's not the same. It's like, you know, when you're 21, when you're 19, 20, 21, you want to do shit. You want to go out, have fun, you know. You want to be places. You want to meet people. You want to, like, you know, and it's not just going to nightclubs and boozing it up and all that shit. It's like, no, man, you want to go out, you want to go water skiing. You want to, like, go hiking. You want to fucking, you know, whatever it is that you do for fun, right? And when you get into your 30s and your 40s, you want to stay home and watch fucking TV, because that's fun. Right? Like, I would rather, like, if people came to me and said, hey, Mark, let's go to a concert, or, like, can I stay home and watch One Piece all night? I would choose One Piece. Like, seriously. Curly sauce, that's right, baby. You know, hey, Jeannie, it's funny you would mention curly sauce. I actually looked them up on YouTube, and apparently there's lots of videos of them on YouTube, but it's all stuff from after the point where you and Aaron and Sergio were in it. It's like Bob, like, I don't know, like, so the rest of you people at home have no idea what we're talking about. So Curly Sauce was this old band that Jeannie B was in with my brother and this guy named Sergio, who's Sergio is actually a guitarist in a band called Orgone, which is actually semi-successful. If you've ever heard of Orgone, they're like a sort of Colombian funk band, and they're actually out there doing it, you know, touring and all that shit. I mean, they're not like super famous, but you know, they actually have records and record deals and that kind of thing. So they're an established band, you know. But anyway, yeah, Serge was in that, and then you know, they would do covers of funk stuff, you know, from like the 70s, that kind of thing. And the lead singer was this guy named Bob, who was really, really funny. Bob was fucking hilarious. And it's funny because I looked him up. There's videos of him, but it's like after you guys all left. So it's still Bob and a bunch of people I don't know still doing their thing. And the latest one is actually from 2009. So it looks like Curly Sauce lasted all the way up until 2009. That's kind of funny. But, yeah, that was just sort of like, just randomly, I was like, just the other day, I was just like looking that shit up. Anyway, this guy Bob was hilarious. He was the funniest shit, and he would tell this story about back in like like in the 70s, because Bob was older than us. So this is like, I'm talking like this area I'm talking about, like I was like a teenager, so this is like 1992. Right? And or something like that. And so Bob was like 30 at this point, so he grew up in the 1970s, right? And he told me this story once about when he was at Magic Mountain. And at Magic Mountain there's this log ride. And he said that he was there with a bunch of friends when he was a teenager, and like, you know, this is like 1973 or some shit. And when you go on this log ride, there's this little portion where it goes through this sort of covered house thing. Yeah. It goes through this like, yeah, Bob was hilarious, totally. Like the log goes into this like covered area. You know, it's like a house, kind of, and then it comes out the other side, right? And he told this story about how him and his friends went there one day, and when it got to the house, they all jumped out, and they were hanging out in there, right? And this is back in the day, so there were no security cameras or any shit. So they're there, and they're like smoking weed and stuff like that. And him and a couple friends. And I wish I could do this story justice. I'm probably gonna, yeah, Logjammer, exactly, right? The Logjammer story. I'm probably gonna like ruin this story. I'll do my best to, you know, capture the essence of it. And apparently he was there with a guy that he didn't really know that well, who was always trying to like impress them, you know. And so they jump off and they're hanging out in there, and they're smoking weed, whatever. And he goes, okay, it's getting a little late. We better like get back in, and they're gonna wonder where we are, right? So they're waiting until they see another log come through that's empty, and then they'll just like jump into the log and go back out. And hopefully the guy that sent them off didn't notice that, hey, these people went in and they never came out, right? And he said that, so there's one dude who was kind of like trying to impress them. He was a little arrogant. You know, he's like, so everybody's like, okay, be careful, you know, we'll help you jump in. And this dude just tried to like walk into the log, but the log's moving. And the way he described it, it was the funniest shit ever. Like, he said this guy kind of tried to step on it, and then the log kept going, and it knocked him over, and he fell into the water. So everybody starts laughing because they're all stoned. And so this guy stands up, and he's like, you know, this is not funny, man. And then another one comes and hits him and rolls over him, like, bam! Just like, so this dude gets up out of the water, and he's sort of got his head and shoulders out of the water. He's like, fuck you guys, it's not funny. Bam! Like, right when he says that, another log just fucking runs his ass over. And apparently it, like, forced him under the log or something. And it was just like, fuck. So, I don't know. I'm not doing it justice. I wish I could have, like, go back in time with like my cell phone and record Bob saying the Logjammer story, because it was the funniest fucking thing. We were rolling so hard. The shit was hilarious. Anyway, damn, that's a blast from the past right there. And I like how nobody in the chat has any idea what the hell I'm talking about here. That's okay. That's okay. Let's see. We're getting close to the end. Lewis, yes, I did read your messages from DeviantArt. Yes, I did. Unless you put another one since the last number. I don't know. There might have been a new one there that I haven't read yet. But I did read about, yeah, the reputation and all that stuff. And yeah. But no, you know, we'll talk after this. Like, I'll message you again there, dude. Let's see, what else we got? Jeannie B, thank goodness there's no proof of me and Tam's couple shows, because I don't need to hear my fresh, young, hot off keenness. No, you guys did a good job. I don't know. I'd like to see it. What else we got? Jeannie B, Rump is going to take over a new hamburger and a fresh pair of Depends. I don't think the people who promoted him are as they were at his ability to funnel and flinch in their favor. Yeah. I don't know. I'm hoping that he just ends up in prison. You know, I'm hoping that apparently the New York State, you know, DA finally has his tax returns, and they're like getting like tax specialists and shit to look it over, you know, because it looks like the evidence is showing that he would do stuff like when it came time to like assess his property for tax reasons, he would deflate the value, and then when it came to like getting investors, he would inflate the value. So that's kind of illegal, you know. Most likely, if anything happens, he's just going to end up with a fine. I really don't think that this may not be enough to actually throw him in prison. It would be if it was you or me. You know, if it was you or me that did this, we'd be in prison. But since it's Donald Trump, they're probably just going to fine him. But who knows? Here's hoping that he actually doesn't get away with that and actually does serve some jail time. The other thing that may sink him is that there's actually a lawsuit where he may have to provide some DNA in a rape case. So I can't remember her name, but there was an accusation came out from a woman from like the late 80s who said that Donald Trump raped her. And she's like this journalist, right? And I can't remember her name, but apparently she still has the dress that has DNA on it. And while he was president, they just wouldn't allow him to release his DNA in order to compare these. But he's not president anymore, so he doesn't have that protection, you know, which is bullshit. You know, it shouldn't matter if you're the president or not. Did you fucking rape somebody? You know, if you did, then cough up the DNA, asshole. But no, you know, that's not how our society works, unfortunately. So now he doesn't have that, you know, that executive privilege to refuse to comply with a court order. And here's hoping that, you know, if that really happened, if he really fucking did it, and the shit matches, you know, I don't think he'll go to prison for that either, but I think that'll tank his chances of being reelected. I think that if they actually had real proof, and it was like in the news, DNA proof Donald Trump raped this woman, I think that's it. There's no way. I think that's a bridge too far. And even, you know, there will always be the core 30% who are going to support him no matter what. You know, he could probably, he could murder a baby on live TV and, like, they would support him. But I think that's it for the Republican Party. They would distance themselves as far as humanly possible from his ass. So, who knows? We'll see. You know, I mean, I hope, I mean, it's like, it's horrible that this happened to this woman, and I hope that she gets her, you know, she gets her justice there. And if it really was fucking him, then yeah, let's fucking, you know, let's ruin his ass. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's all we got. I had fun here, you know. This stream was a little disorganized, you know, little all over the place, not really a theme for this one. Next week, the theme is going to be Republicans are cheats. That's what it's going to be. And it's going to be all about how they, you know, cheat during elections, how they use institutional power to rig the system for their own ends. That's going to be the theme in next week's stream. I wasn't ready this week, so, but I had a bunch of stuff here that didn't fit in with anything, and that's what I wanted to talk about, so that's what we did. But anyway, I had fun. Maybe we'll do this every once in a while. Maybe once in a while we'll just have another random access Saturday. We can kind of make that like a, you know, a recurring segment. You know what I mean? So anyway, but I think I got to end this. We're hitting up 2 hours here. Let's take a look at where we're at. You know, making good progress, I think, right? Still have an entire other side of the paper to go. So once again, before we close it, I want to show you guys the piece that we did over the last couple of streams. You know, so it was this one. This is the one that we worked on for the last like 5 streams. And I went and made a print out of it, you know, coffee stained print, so make it look all old and weathered or whatever. You know. And if anybody wants one of these, I will give you one for free, basically. So maybe like the first, like, I don't know, maybe the first 10 people or something, maybe the first 5 or 10 people who want one, just reach out to me, and, you know, I'll just send it to you. Right. And I am going to put this up on my SD shop too. And we could do it that way too. I'll put it on my Etsy shop and then I'll give you guys a coupon code so that you can get it for free there. But if you just want it, just send me a private message and, you know, with your address and I'll just send it to you, you know. Because, and this is like a thank you for all of you guys who have kind of tuned in every week and supported me, you know. But in the meantime, I think let's go ahead and end this. We're just about at 2 hours here. I think this was fun. I don't know. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun. And before we leave, I gotta do my ending of the, you know, ending of the stream speech here. So let me just pull up all of my social media stuff, like I always do here. Let's see. Let's hope this loud-ass truck outside goes away. You know, thankfully, at least nobody's honking their horn outside anymore. Okay, so if you like what I do and you want to support me, here is my Etsy shop. So this is where I will put the print that we just made. I will put this on the shop here. But if you want to support me and you like what I do, please consider buying something. You know, I have all of these. These are all hand-stained prints. You know, you just saw what they looked like. Here's an example of one right here. This is the Kraken, you know, monsters, shit like that. That's the kind of stuff that I draw. So please, if you like what I do and you want to see more and you want to support me financially, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop. I also have a webcomic, which is Hwanja.com, fun for the whole stupid family. It's got ninjas and stuff in it, kung fu, that kind of thing, people getting drop kicked, blah, blah, blah. Please check that out if you're interested. If you want to see more of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt site. Looks like I got a message here. And, you know, I put up, this is like more of, you know, actual full-colored things. Although I have lots of my comics on here. I got things like the scrolls, stuff like that. And then I have like full-page, you know, full-color things that I draw on here. Here's one from a little while ago, giant baby brain guy, right? So please check me out if you want to see more of my artwork. Check me out on DeviantArt.com. In fact, I'll just put that in the chat as well. And if you want to see me talk about non-political stuff, please check me out on UCD Videos. This is my other channel. I talk about video games. I do toy reviews, you know, toy unboxings, video game streams, stuff like that. Here's the latest one is from the C64 Mini. I got one of those for Christmas, you know. So if you want to see me talk about non-political stuff, please check me out on UCD Videos. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog, as always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Adversary Fandon. Thank you, Dynacat. Good to see ya. And Jeannie B. Thanks for coming out, Jeannie B. You're the greatest. And we will do this again next week at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I will talk to you guys all later. Thanks a lot.